Hello everyone. In the last video, I explained what is Playwright's Dot Reporter. In this video, I'm going to explain how to customize Playwright's Dot Reporter and also how to overcome its disadvantages. As a first step, you need to create a custom reporter listener inside your project directory. So I'm creating a utils directory. Inside that, I'm creating a TypeScript file. So I'm naming that as custom reporter. And you can get this custom listener template, the reporter listener template from the Playwright document. And naming the class file as a custom reporter. So once the file is created, so what you need to do is go to Playwright config file and change the reporter as the file name what you have created. So utils / custom reporter .ts. Yeah. So now let's see whether the reporter is calling the listener file. Yeah. So it is printing from these methods. Now we can start like how to configure this listener for Dot Reporter. In Dot Reporter, we have two disadvantages. One is it doesn't print total number of tests executed during execution, and it won't print the failed test case name. So now I'm going to show you how to overcome that. For better understanding, I'm just removing all the methods in the custom listener. So I'm starting with by declaring 3 variables. The first one is total test. In this variable, we are going to store total test in the test suite. And next variable is total test executed, and the last one is number of tests per line. So the last variable is to have a threshold like showing only 50 test result in a line, and then in every end of the line we are going to print total test executed against the total test in the test suite. So using constructor, I'm going to initialize these variables. The last one is number of tests per line. Yeah. So the variables are ready. Now we can start writing the required methods. Yeah, let's begin with the first method creation. The first method is onBegin method. This method will be called before starting the test execution, that is test suite execution. The first line, I'm just assigning value for total test. To grab total test information, I'm using suite.allTest.length, and then in the console log, I'm going to print. So I'm using string interpolation here. This dot total test. If I run this test suite, it will print how many tests are going to be executed by calling the onBegin method. Yeah, the first method is getting executed. The next method what we are going to create is printTotalExecuted. So this is not a default method of the custom reporter. Like we need this method to print total test after executing 50 tests in a line. Process dot, and we're going to print total test executed. And then we're going to print total test. So after printing that, we are going to reset the number of tests per line, because this is an incremental variable. So after printing 50 tests per line, it would display like how many tests are executed against the total test. Then we are resetting the number of tests per line variable. Let's move on to the next method. Now we are going to create onTest end method. So this is the important method where all the test statuses will be updated, and this method will be called whenever a test execution is done. So first we are going to check whether the test dot number of tests per line equals to 50. So if it is this variable reaches 50, we are going to call this dot printTotalExecuted. As I mentioned earlier, we are going to print total test cases executed for every 50 test statuses in a line. After that, we are going to increment both the variables, that is total test executed and also total that is a number of tests per line. Now we are going to see how to print status for a skipped test. So in this if condition, we are going to check this skipped status. So if the status is skipped, we are going to print the empty dot, and we are going to color that. Okay, so this code is called ANSI code to color anything on terminal. So whatever logs you are printing, okay, so if you want to color it, you need to use this ANSI code. So after printing that, we are returning from this method. Now we are going to check retry statuses. In the if condition, first I'm going to check the test outcome. So the outcome what I'm checking here is unexpected, and I'm going to check the test, that is this test, how many times it has retried, and then what is the configuration of retries we have mentioned in the config. So if the retry is less than the number of retries, it means it is in still retrying the rerunning the test again, okay, after failure. And then to print any retry, we use X symbol. Again, as I mentioned earlier, here also we are using the ANSI symbol. Since this is a retry, we should not, that is, we cannot increase the total test executed. So that sequence should be decreased here. So that's why I'm using the total test executed variable -1. So this is the snippet to like a print retries. The next status is we are going to check failure. So first I'm checking the outcome. So the outcome is unexpected, and the result, what I'm checking here is failed status. If it is failed, so printing F along with the test title, and then I'm going to call printTotalExecuted, because after every failure I'm going to print the total test, then all the test statuses will be printed in the new line. Now we are going to check pass status. So test.outcome should be expected, and the result status should be passed. And then here we are going to print the solid dot. And if you notice the ANSI color code we are marking as 32M here, so to show the difference in the color, and then returning from the method. The next status is flaky. So test dot outcome equals to flaky. So here we are printing plus or minus and returning from the method. So these are the statuses we are printing inside the onTest method. So it will print the statuses 50 statuses in one line. So if it reaches 50, then it would print the number of tests executed, and then it would move on to the next line, and then it will print the statuses. So this reporting will be helpful when you run it from continuous integration to see the holistic picture of the entire execution. The last method is onEnd method. So this method will be invoked after executing the test suite. So in the first step, I'm going to check the number of tests per line is not equals to 0. If it is not equals to 0, I'm going to call print total test executed method. The reason why I'm calling this method here is, let's say if 10 tests are executed, and then that is the end of the test suite, we need to print the number of tests executed, right? So before the execution is stopped. So that is the reason we are calling, if it is not equals to 0, print total test executed. And then here we are going to print the finish the run, and I'm going to print the status of the run. Now I'm going to execute these scripts and show you how statuses are printing in console. For demo purpose, I'm changing this as 5 instead of 50. It means every file, after every file ends, it will 5 statuses. It will print the total test executed, and it will move on to the next line. So in this test, I have 12 tests. So let's see how it is printing the statuses. Yeah, if you see here, after printing 5 statuses, test statuses, so it is the first character is like number of tests executed, and this is the total test executed. So if you're running it in continuous integration, you will know how many tests are executed, and you will also get the holistic picture of the execution. So this is how you can overcome the disadvantages of dot operator. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. Thank you.